have devoted their entire careers to the noble pursuit of law. People who have elevated the standard of jurisprudence and hence raised the bar for many generations to come. With this mission in mind, our featured guest for the premiere installment of the show was an obvious choice. He is someone who wears many hats and has several onlys and firsts to his credit. He has been the youngest professor of law at Punjab University at the age of 39 in 1983. The youngest chairperson of Department of Law in 1956. He is the only person who has been accorded with the double recognition of both senior advocate and professor emeritus. He has served as the director of National Judicial Academy, Bhopal, and is honorary chief advisor, Chandigarh Judicial Academy. He has also served as the dean, faculty of law, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. From his nascent days as a parliamentary fellow to his current venerated position as the recipient of the prestigious MC Chagla National Award, his illustrious journey is a testament to his commitment to legal excellence. It is with great pride and anticipation we commence on our series by welcoming a true legal luminary, a man who is a phenomenon in himself. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Professor Balram K. Gupta. Yes, sir. So thank you for accepting our invite and welcome to Raising the Bar.
Such a warm introduction that you've given. I feel so good. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, sir, for gracing us with your presence. And each one of us here feels lucky to have you here.
I have been looking forward to this particular event myself. I know the kind of work that has been put in, the effort that has been put in, and therefore is going to be a delightful morning.
Thank you so much, sir. This was there throughout the way to motivate me. Sir, it has been a remarkable journey. One that spans almost 6 days. And the beauty of it all is that it covers the entire spectrum of law, academia, advocacy, judicial education. So when you reflect back on your journey, I'm very curious to know. The young boy who came to Chandigarh in 1956, is he satisfied with the revered jurist he has become today? Or does your passion for law still drives you to explore new horizons?
You know, when I came to the teaching of law way back in the year 1969, I thought I would excel in teaching. That was my passion. But at the age of 60, I thought that would be the end of the innings for that matter. But now I look back, what a beautiful journey it has been. Trust me, 14 more years were left with my university teaching for that matter. I came to the profession of law. 22 years in teaching, equally 22 years active professional years. And then I never thought that I would get the opportunity to be the director of the National Judicial Academy. My last 12 years have been into judicial education. And if I say they have been the most productive years of my journey, and I have gone through this particular journey, each aspect of it, be it the academic, the professional, It has been blended for that matter, and therefore I'm happy with this journey.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, if given the opportunity, would you like to do anything differently?
You know, question is, if I get some opportunity to do something different, certainly I go forward to it. This is not the end for that matter. I still continue to contribute in my own ways. I write, I publish, I go for different sessions in the judicial academies and the National Judicial Academy and in different universities. Something different this particular session gives us, and therefore one looks forward. Let me tell you one thing. Ram Jethmalani, at the age of 95, he was arguing a matter in the Supreme Court, in the court of Chief Justice T.S. Thakur. And just Chief Justice asked him, Ram, he was offered the court as Ram, when will you stop coming to the court? And his response was, why my Lord is interested in knowing my testing? That's the way the life is. You must live it up to the end of it. For in Nariman that we also had, he was also 95 plus. He finalized a petition which was to be filed in the Supreme Court the next morning. It was past 12 midnight. He went out. And he went into eternal sleep for that matter. That's the kind of journey that they had, the best of minds.
Very well said, sir. Sir, in your book, sir's book is here, My Journey with Law and Justice. So you mentioned that you chose to do LLM in 1969 instead of practicing law. Whereas you could have practiced law because there was a chamber waiting for you of your late brother, Sri Jawaharlal Gupta ji, who had an established practice at that time. So sir, was this your way, like you say, to carve out my own niche and excel?
Say, I was wanting to do something of my own, where I have to put in my own effort. And that was the reason that I came into teaching. And I have no regrets. My elder brother used to tell me, Balram, you are truly a fool. 3 of his clerks were earning far more than I was earning, each one of them. The question is not of earning. And I have no regrets that I gave into teaching and didn't come to a profession or why do I say that? The kind of students that I have been blessed with, the positions that they have achieved, if I were not into teaching, I would have never been blessed with such a progeny for that matter.
Right, sir. We have several faculty members here and several aspiring teachers here, sir. So in your book you also say that teaching is a skillful game. It's an art. And each lecture must be taken as a performance. So with your extensive teaching experience, what advice would you give to us young teachers and aspiring teachers?
Good, I'm happy. Many of my students came into the academic field into teaching for that. I used to mentor them. And my first advice to them was be prepared for your lecture 3 times over, in the sense, if you think this much would be enough for that particular lecture, be prepared for 3 lectures. In the beginning, you have a race, you are not confident, and therefore, whatever you remember, you try to come out with that. If you have enough material, that gives you confidence. And that confidence is the basic root which is required to be a skillful teacher. Two, you must know the subject very well. Knowing the subject with clarity of mind is the foundation of a good teacher. The difference between a lawyer and a teacher is, for instance, my teaching helped me in the legal profession because I was clear about the fundamentals, the principles of law, or the constitutional jurisprudence for that matter. That gave me confidence, and that's most essential. Don't think overnight you will be a seasoned teacher. It's the experience which matters. No one is a born teacher, even if you are born to teacher parents for that matter. What matters is the experience that you gain. And as you've said, and I've said it in the book also, your articulation, your communication skills, they are the most important aspect of it. Any career that you choose, if you are a good public speaker, that's a booster dose for you for that matter. Let me share, which I have always said. A good speaker always enjoys good health. You would ask me, how do you say that? And my response to that is, if you speak well, you communicate well, you are appreciated. Appreciation gives you happiness. And there is no better tonic than happiness for that matter.
Very well. So we want to show you a slide of Professor Shiv Dayal, your mentor. Next slide, please. Sir, could you tell us about this incident where Professor Shiv Dayal called you and said, Balram, you've become a problem for me?
See, let me share this aspect also. I came into teaching Professor Shiv Dayal had left the Punjab University and gone to the Delhi University. And it was a dream for me to be a teacher like him. Within the first 2 months, you know what has made me very happy? It was said, one Dr. has gone, another has come. That was the clincher for that matter. Now coming to the question that she has asked, you know, there are certain teachers who are beginners who do not effectively teach. And the students were restless. They went to the class, to the chairman of the department, Professor Dayal. And in that particular context, they said, sir, we want Balram Gupta to teach us that particular subject. Let me further tell you. Professor Shiv Dayal said, you go to the class, and I'm coming to address you all in that particular way. He went to the class, and he says, you can choose your husband, you can choose your wife, but you can't choose your teacher for that matter. And students asked him, why can't we choose a teacher? And then he says, I can't stretch him more than what I have already done. Would you believe, trust me, heard about me, I was taking more than 30 classes a week. And therefore, given the opportunity to the young teachers here, I would advise, when you teach different subjects, the kind of clarity that you get. And if you teach well, how many students you make them happy? They are your admirers. You will feel proud of them in due course of time. I'm blessed.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, no interview of yours is complete without mentioning Lord Denning, someone who's had a profound influence on you. He's reflected in your legal philosophy, in your writings, in your writing style. So when you were at LSE, coincidentally my alma mater as well, you were asked a question that have you been to Lord Denning's court? And you said no. And someone said that then you're missing free entertainment. So sir, what led you, what prompted you to visit his court that led to a lifelong association and visible reverence to Lord Denning?
You know, let me share that. When I was asked this, I made it a point to be in his court, just at that stage itself. And would you believe, he was moving up and down on the arbitrage side. And absolutely relaxed. The way he would question the barrister made the barrister absolutely comfortable, so that the barrister can give his utmost, the best. And humor, the way he would talk, it was a delight and a joy to watch him vote. My own experience, I've experienced all kinds of judges during my long journey. But the kind of Lord Denning spoke was is something different, let me tell you. And how much I wish if it could be like that. After having attended the court, I made it a point. In fact, I already was interviewing. I was working for my doctoral work on the constitutionality of the institution of ombudsman. In fact, my recommendation in that particular work was judicial ombudsman in aid of judiciary, which is the need of the hour today for that matter. I went to interview him and see how he would respond to each question. What a beauty that is said. One long hour interview recorded. Those days, 1978, tape recorders, cassettes. You know, it was something which now you would think what it is. Wasn't it? When I came back, I read more his judgments, his writings for that matter. And I thought I must develop the writing style as Prof. was having. My first effort was to finish my doctoral work. That was theology. And I could concentrate on the writing style of Lord Denning in my work. But having finished that, I in fact wrote an article on Lord Derry, which appeared in the Supreme Court cases journal articles, something like that. Short sentences, even one word would constitute a sentence. How effective the writings have been. I tried my level best to that. And this gives me immense satisfaction today when it is dubbed that the book has been written in Lord Derry writing style. Nothing could have given me more happiness than this particular effort of mine for that matter.
Sir's article is still available on SCC online, Lord Derring the Matchless. Next slide, please. So this is a very cute conversation that we've dug up between a grandfather and grandson from the Indian Express newspaper, where your grandson pointed out to you, Nanu, why do you write in such short sentences?
That's right. You know, I shared, when he was in Doom School, shared 2 of my articles. And when he came over during the summer vacation, I asked him, how do you like those 2 pieces of mine? And his counter question was, Nanu, why do you write short sentences? And my counter question to him was, why do you ask me this question? And his answer was, I enjoyed reading those articles. This is yours. You know, you have the answer now in that context.
Absolutely, sir, absolutely. So moving on to another person who's had, again, very profound influence on your life, your Tauji, Professor Hansraj Gupta ji. And for the knowledge of audience, he is a mathematician of international repute. So could you tell us about that incident where he taught you his philosophy, cool minds are fertile minds?
You know, see, the legacy of my Tauji, probably none of us can carry it forward. He was a lecturer in a government college in Ushapur, which journey he started in 1928. That college was an intermediate college after class 12, 14. Matric those days and intermediate thereafter for 2 years. There were no books, no journals. He produced the best of work, his doctoral thesis. He wrote to the university for a supervisor. University could not provide him the supervisor in the field of mathematics. Punjab University in Lahore at that particular point of time, he could submit his thesis. And you know, the beauty was, ultimately the principal of the college wrote a letter to the university. Here is the thesis. Do whatever you wish to do with this. And let me add, that thesis was sent to 2 professors of Cambridge University. And the report that came was, this work is far above the doctoral degree. And the beauty of this thesis was, it was handwritten. There was no manual typewriter available at that particular point of time with mathematical symbols for that matter. I have a photocopy with me for that matter. And I take pride in that particular fact. One more thing, why he influenced me. You know, he worked at a place where there is nothing there. There's a field of mathematics. He came out with a perpetual calendar when he was still school going. You could find the day of any month, of any year, past or future. Imagine a short thought. That calendar, there was an exhibition in the United Kingdom. It was sent over there to be one of the exhibits over there. Got a gold medal for that. Now, that particular calendar, when I was teaching in the Bengal University, it was around the year 1970-72, introduced on the third page the same calendar which he had done it in 1920-25 during that particular period, under some other name. I got a clipping done and sent it across to Balram, where he was living with his son at that particular point of time. And I showed my anger, in fact, that somebody has copied your work. And you know what was the response? Balram, he may not be knowing about my calendar. And therefore he may have produced this calendar of his own. Never get agitated for that matter. That was the cool mind, the fertile mind that he had.
And for the benefit of the audience, I would also like to mention that when Sir completed his PhD, Professor Hansraj Gupta sent him a very endearing postcard as well, congratulating him, saying that he was proud of him for carrying forward the legacy.
You know, just one line he wrote in that letter. Balram, you are the glowworm of the family.
Wonderful, sir. So moving on to the year 1991. So you already had been a celebrated academic, but you still had another 14 years to go before retirement. So what prompted you to change over to advocacy?
You know, my elder brother was elevated as a judge. And he had a roaring practice, a kingdom of his own, if I say that. There was nobody else in the family who could take over his work. And therefore the challenge was, if I step in, I will be able to carry forward and carry forward the work that he had generated. But I was in a very big dilemma. भाई जब बन गया, अब तुम आगे उठा रहे। I didn't want to hear anyone to say that. And therefore I was in a real dilemma. I discussed within the family. My Vice Chancellor, Professor Gupta, at that time, when I told him that I am thinking of taking premature retirement, he said, Balram, you know what level you have already achieved in the academic domain. Why should you leave? I would give you 3 years sabbatical leave. Enjoy whatever you wish to do during those 3 years and come back to us. I told him, if I decide to go, I will not come back. The reason for that was, whatever you do it with full concentration, with full passion for that matter. Divided attention doesn't take you anywhere for that matter. Then I asked myself, Balram, you are not going as a beginner in the profession. I don't need anybody's crutches for that matter to stand on my own legs in that context. And the kind of values that the family has imbibed all through, why can't you step in and take over the responsibility? And I did.
Absolutely. Can we please have the slide with Shri Jawaharlal Gupta ji? for the benefit of the audience? Then. Please come back to the main slide. Sir, that brings me to the next question. You've said, sir, that working for success will make you a master, but working for satisfaction will make you a legend. And you are a living example of that, sir.
You know, this truly is right, absolutely. I mean, I have experienced that. Something which gives you satisfaction, nothing is better. Teaching gave me immense satisfaction, there is no doubt about it. And I did my very best for that matter. Equally, I worked the way I could get this satisfaction in the profession as such. And you rightly say, you live your life in that particular context.
Absolutely, sir. So when you were practicing, it so happened that many of your students during that time got elevated to the bench, even the Supreme Court. So sir, how did that once student-teacher bond evolve into a lawyer-judge relationship? And sir, if you could along with that also elaborate on the importance of co-partnering between bar and bench.
See, let me put it this way. I came to the profession and I came into profession in 1991. In 1994, for the first time, my student was elevated as a judge, Justice Swatantha Kumar, who later became a judge, Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, and then the judge of the Supreme Court. He was sworn in the morning, and in the evening I went over to him and I told him, I'm in a dilemma. He understood. I mean, whether I can come to his court and practice in after cases. You know what was his response? Balram, you do your duty, I will do my duty. That was the way I got encouraged to argue cases in my own students who became judges. And thereafter, practically every year, my students used to be elevated. Now, this was a regular practice. I would go and argue in the court. Many of the lawyers would ask me, Balram, don't you feel bad? Your students are being elevated and you are not being elevated as a judge. You know my response to that? Nothing more gives me more happiness than seeing my student being sworn in and being elevated as a judge. A teacher always lives in the reflected glory of his students.
Absolutely, very well said, sir. Sir, also, I would like to mention a quote from your book. Since we have many budding lawyers here, and I think they would want to take a leaf out of sir's book, I quote, "The lawyer must deal with his client in such a way that even if he loses the case, he does not lose the client. Even if he loses the client, he does not lose the court. Even if he loses the court, he must not lose his conscience."
See, this is the best recipe I have always shared with my young lawyers for the client. See, I'm asked, if you lost the case of a particular client, why would he come back to you? And my answer used to be, if you have treated him well, and you have argued his case to the absolute ablest of your capacity as such, he would surely come back to you. He feels satisfied that my lawyer did my very best, and probably my case was not good enough to do that. I have experienced that. The senior consuls do not have sufficient time to give to the clients. And normally, when a client comes, the elder lawyer sits with the client, takes down the factual canvas and everything, prepares the petition, and then the client have a meeting along with the junior one, with the senior as such. Believe me, many a time they would come and tell me, sir, I even didn't get that kind of an opportunity to meet the senior. That's the difficulty for that matter. And therefore this particular quote, treat your client in such a manner, he will come back to you, she will come back to you. That's the best recipe for it. And let me tell you another thing. In every profession there is jealousy. Legal profession is no exception for that matter. When I came to the profession, I'm sitting and waiting in court for my own case. I find a young lawyer performing very well. And he goes out. I go out with him, pat him, tell him you have done very well. And if you need any help, don't hesitate to come to me. That has given me immense happiness again. Why? Today they are senior advocates and judges. How could you feel that you have virtually nurtured them in that process?
Absolutely, sir. And we could use mentors like you. So, steering the conversation to slightly light-hearted things, you've always stressed on the role of humor. And you've said that everything should be laced with humor and light-hearted conversation. So, sir, do you feel that it is a subtle yet powerful tool to ease the settings that often become very charged in court?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, let me give you one or two instances. It happened in the Calcutta High Court. The courtroom was adjoining the Boundary Wall. A serious case, a corporate matter, was being argued. And suddenly outside the courtroom, in fact, that particular matter in the court had very tense, aggressive situation. And suddenly outside the courtroom, an ass started praying. Gradually the praying part became louder and louder and louder. It was disturbing the court and the seriousness was that. So the judge says, one at a time, please. Now, the lawyer returns and says, I thought it was the echo of the court. You know, this kind of a situation naturally is this. Let me share another example, give you another example. It happened in Punjab and Haryana court, just Bijawani's court. It was a thick, fat fight. The lawyer, he was a former attorney general of India, G. Ramaswamy. He had come for that corporate matter. The courtmaster, with a lot of difficulty, picked up the file because it was a heavy file and tried to hand over to the judge. The judge says, I haven't gone through the file. And G. Ramaswamy says, when my Lord wants an adjournment, what can I do? And still another one, if you wish. It happened in an English court with an English judge. Probably I might have.
I think you're coming to my favorite one, sir.
See, he was in the habit of bringing his pet dog to the courtroom. The dog was so well tamed that it would not disturb the proceedings in the court. And therefore, in that particular process, what nothing would be disturbed in that context. A lawyer was arguing, a barrister was arguing. Suddenly the judge started looking at the dog, the pet dog. The lawyer stopped. The judge says, "Why have you stopped? Continue." You know what the lawyer said? "I thought my lord was in consultation." And the judge says, "Even the dog doesn't agree with you in your argument."
That indeed is my favorite one, sir. So, AI has become the buzzword now, and it has made even its way to bar and bench. So, are you worried that the art of penmanship in drafting will be affected by this?
See, AI is a tool. If it is used, it can be useful. If it is abused, it can be a very damaging situation for that matter. I've already come across situations where the wrong citations have come through the medium of AI. Who I strongly, firmly believe there is no substitute to a human mind. What a human mind can achieve, AI cannot do that. You can trust me on this. And therefore, yes, it's a challenge. It's a useful tool. But how to use it, how to be careful, you need to know very particular about that.
Right, sir. I think even in academia, we are struggling with at a time when there are a lot of instances of plagiarism and originality. So, sir, a word for budding researchers here on how to use it and not abuse it.
That's right. You know, let me tell you, my son, Shirish, he's a lawyer. He prepares the case, does everything as such, and then he reverts to AI. Some additional arguments come forward in that context. He would consider them, weigh them, and if he finds that yes, they can be used, is a helpful tool for that matter.
Very well said, sir, that it is a supplement and not a substitute to human mind. Right, sir. So, you've also talked about Justice Khanna and Justice B.K. Mukherjee in your book. And you also said that one dissent made Justice Khanna immortal. So, could you please elaborate the value of judicial integrity?
See, judicial integrity is most important. There's no doubt, and I don't need to elaborate. And I don't even hesitate to deal with the present situation that we are facing this today as such. Let me tell you, every institution which is being manned by human beings, may it be judiciary, may it be the executive or the parliament, some black sheep are there. In some institutions, more, in some, it is less. But it's not completely divorced from the black sheep for that matter. That's the human element for the matter as such. But what I'm coming to, see, I've asked this particular episode, has it really brought down the institution of judiciary? I would respond by saying, look at the contribution that the judiciary has made to Indian constitutional jurisprudence for that matter. It is even more than what the US Constitution, which is 236 years old for that matter. 75 years of the Indian Constitution, and I take pride in saying that. None of the contemporary constitutions around different countries, for that matter, has survived. It's only because of the judiciary that has contributed, number one. Number two, judicial review, which is said to be something wrongly being used. I would deny that, absolutely. Judicial review has provided the constitutional voice to the constitutional silences, for that matter. And that's the beauty of it. Basic structure is the savior of the Indian Constitution. Article 21 has humanized the criminal jurisprudence, for that matter. The golden triangle of Articles 14, 19 and 21 is hugely contributory of the Indian judiciary, for that matter. And therefore, if some black sheep are there, you can't wipe off the contribution which has been made. And let us take pride that we will look forward to centenary celebrations of the Indian Constitution.
Let's now come to the year 2013.
That's
Yet another transition. So, sir, what prompted that transition? And you also said, if I may add, that we don't need computerized justice. You've had experience in training people who have the responsibility of dispensing justice. So, what is the importance of human element in dispensing justice?
See, judges are human beings. Let me tell you. Harold Lasky, a political thinker, he wrote a letter to Justice Holmes, Oliver Wendell Holmes, saying, how could I wish if the people could realize that judges are human beings? And Justice Holmes responded back by saying, how much I wish if judges could realize that they are human beings. That's the beauty of that. That's the real crux of it. This is what has to be realized by the judges. You know, when I say justice can't be computerized, feed the facts, feed the law, and get the judgment is not possible. Compassion, empathy. You know, these are elements which only humans can provide to human disputes, for that matter.
Right, sir. Sir, I've learned yet another virtue from your book, simplicity. Simplicity in conducting oneself and simplicity in language. You reverentially talk about Justice Krishna Iyer and his wide vocabulary in English language. Yet you also stress on writing in simple language that is understood by even a layman. So could you please elaborate on that? Because I think a lot of students may benefit from this. We tend to have preconceived notions about complicated language, that it adds legal depth.
See, let me share with you. Justice Krishna Iyer, he had come to the Punjab University in the Department of Laws for Justice Merchant Mahajan Memorial Lecture. I was working at that time on my doctoral thesis, and I was quite conversant with the kind of language that he had been using in his judgments. I met him and asked him, why this kind of language? And you know what was his response? Language is a tool which you use every day, and I'm used to this kind of tool. That was his response. And if you wish me to change now, I cannot do that. And therefore, to the young minds, I would say, write simple language. It's a vehicle of communication. You have a good thought process. Don't complicate it by writing complicated language for that matter, which cannot be understood by most of the people for that matter. That's the reason that I write short sentences, simple language, easily. A judgment should be digestible, understandable, readable. And that's the beauty of it. That's how it has to be done. I remember we had a judge transferred from Chennai, Justice K. Garden, for the matter. You must not have heard, because he has gone from here about 8-10 years back. I used to have my regular matters in his court. And later on, he shared with me that I have a feeling of a lifelong association with you. I said, what is that particular element that has led to this kind of a feeling? He says, you used to write, your petitions used to be drafted with short sentences, limited, simple language for that matter. And he says, the beauty was not only the petition was drafted in that particular manner, you used to limit your arguments to your petition for that matter. You would not go this way or that way. And that's something that I have enjoyed. So, young minds, I urge you strongly, know your language very well, communicate effectively, but in simple language for that matter.
Right. I think the audience also very eager to interact with you. So one last question from my side, sir. So you've been a member of the Rotary Club. Sir, what do you think is the responsibility of us legal professionals especially in giving back to society?
Yes. I would be completing next year 50 years in Rotary. My journey of it. And during all this period, my effort has been to connect Rotary with judiciary. The values of a Rotarian are the similar values of judges for that matter. The four-way test of Rotary is it the truth? Is it fair to all? Is it beneficial to all? That's those aspects. And how you conduct as a Rotarian. When you go out, you're wearing a Rotarian's pin for that matter. And you don't conduct yourself. It's a reflection that he is a Rotarian and yet he doesn't conduct himself fairly. I know a young entrepreneur had gone out of the country seeking contracts for his products for that matter. He was wearing a Rotary pin. And would you believe it generated his business for that matter because the values, the kind of values that Rotarians enjoy. Same is true in judiciary also. Through my memorial lectures, writings, and lectures for that matter, otherwise also, I connected the Rotary with judiciary. The founder of Rotary, Paul Harris, was a lawyer. He could contribute so much by being a lawyer and yet nurtured the tree of Rotary for that matter. And that is how Rotary is a hobby with me. I've enjoyed my 50 years journey also with Rotary for that matter. Young minds, whatever profession you choose, you must choose something as a hobby also. Reading biographies and autobiographies is a hobby. You learn a lot in that particular process. Be Rotarians, again, it's a hobby. basic object of Rotary is service. Now, service to humanity. Judges, when they do justice, when they remove injustice, they are doing service. Similarly, Rotarians also, in variety of fields, they are doing justice. I can go on, but I'm sure.
Right. So, sir, your words of wisdom and knowledge are worth their weight in gold, and I, for one, definitely feel wealthier than I was 1 hour ago. Thank you so much. So now I think we can open the floor for the audience who very eagerly has been waiting and maybe is slightly jealous of me.
Okay, we welcome all the audience for questions, but it's a very humble request that let us stick to the questions which are relevant to the theme of the discussion today, and refrain from asking anything which is not pertinent to the discussion of the day. So yes, please, questions. Anyone?
So, sir, firstly, congratulations on winning the MC Chagla National Award.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I read your...
Let me tell you, this particular award has given me immense satisfaction and happiness. Why do I say that? 1965, when I was in the first year of law, the law department building was inaugurated by MC Chakla. And 60 years hence, I've got this award, which I feel is a lifetime achievement that I have.
So, sir, I read your piece in the Indian Express where you have talked about Mr. C.K. Daftari. And he says, justice is like the slow train. You get off at one station, then run and catch it at the next one. And there is a phrase which probably everyone knows here. Justice delayed is justice denied. My question for you is, aren't the two phrases in contradiction to each other? If you stop at one station, but the next, if you stop at the one station, but the next train to catch has no estimate time of arrival at the station, but what if it never comes? So what is your response to that?
You know, this particular aspect that you have quoted just now of C.K. Daftari. Let me give the background. C.K. Daftari, again a former Attorney General of India. He was the first Solicitor General of India from 1950 to 1963, and from 1963 to 68, he was the Attorney General of India. Most brilliant mind, wit and wisdom were his companions for that matter. I have a book which contains his wit and wisdom both for that matter. I enjoy many a time. I have used his episodes in court of humor in my classes when I used to teach in the law department. Now this particular thing, you get down at one station and you catch the train at the other one. Funny Nariman, he argued a matter in which what had happened was, in the trial court, the respondent was there present and the case was fought by him for that matter. But when the matter came before the High Court, he didn't appear. And therefore, the matter was decided against him. The matter came up before the Supreme Court. So Hari Nariman's basic summation was that he has no right, C.K. Daftari has no right at all to appear. Why? Because his client did not appear before the High Court, and if he skipped that, he had no right to come to the Supreme Court. And in that background, he said, you get down at one station and catch the train to the next one. And that particular quip won the case for him. You know, the judges felt what has happened. Even if he didn't come before the High Court, still, if he has a right, we would consider that, and it was decided in his favor. Now, justice delayed is justice denied. True, there is no doubt of that. You know, Magna Carta of the year 1215. Three things. Justice is not to be sold, is not to be denied, is not to be delayed. 1215, we are in 2025, it still holds. Well, our judicial system is such. We have the problem of numbers. It's not that the judges don't work. Trust me, I have seen. I come from the family of judges. Shruti would know also that. They work very hard for that. But the problem is of numbers. And we have to see how we can meet that as such. But truly, delaying justice, killing justice for the matter, only thing that I would add a writer. You know, you hear a case, you reserve a judgment. The caution is, once you reserve a judgment, you must pronounce the judgment without delay. Because reserving the judgment for long is killing justice for that matter. Thank you.
Next question we have is from Dr. Nidhi. She is a faculty at UALS.
Good morning, sir. So first of all, thank you very much for this insightful session. Okay, so my question is that just minutes before this session, we were having a word about H.W.R. Wade, so whom we very reverently follow for administrative law in India. So I just wish to know how was your experience while attending his lecture, and because at that time we did not even have the concept of administrative law in India. So just for the students as well as for the budding lawyers, because administrative law is all about the government organs in the motion. So how do you think that lecture helped you, and how do you see it happening in the present times?
Let me share my experience. I came into teaching in 1969. I was given to teach administrative law. Administrative law had been introduced that very year. Prior to that, as a student of LLB or LLM, I had not studied that subject because it was not part of the curriculum for that matter. There was no book available by any Indian author, and even by an English author, a book on constitution and administrative law, but there is no single book on administrative law. Now you can imagine my predicament to teach that subject when nothing is available with you. And two is a judge-made law for that matter. We have now such rich material on administrative law. It was 1980 that I went for that Commonwealth Conference on the developments in administrative law. Even at that particular point of time, administrative law had not developed. And therefore, I did contribute a paper on that. And Indian administrative law at that particular point of time was far ahead of the English administrative law or the American administrative law in many other countries for that matter. I give you a short example. Maneka Gandhi's case. The passport was confiscated. And the question was whether this is a lawful constitutional act of the part of the government for that matter. Now before you do that, follow the principles of natural justice and therefore give a notice before you really confiscate the passport, because you are denying the right to travel, which is a part of right to life and liberty. And therefore, this was done. The government said that if we give notice, she would go out of the country, and therefore the very purpose of confiscating the passport would be defeated. You know how the Supreme Court decided that? Pre-decisional hearing and a post-decisional hearing. That was the kind of a thing that was done at that time, which I shared with the British people, the Commonwealth countries as such. They had not ever thought of this kind of a thing. And therefore we are far ahead in administrative law, my own experience as such. And when I came back, a letter came to my Vice Chancellor at that time, which made me happy about the contribution that I've made in that context. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question, please.
Good morning, sir. It's actually a pleasure to be asking a question. And given the paucity of time, if I had actually the time, I would have expressed how much indebted I feel to be standing here. So my question is two-pronged. First of all, as a lawyer, since you've experienced that yourself, there are certain challenges. For example, a recent trend has been a study on ethical lawyering. For example, there's a case and one lawyer is manipulating the facts and distorting the audiences. So the point is you are against the lawyer and you are to defend what you know is the truth and the lawyer is planting evidences. And secondly, in the position of a judge, since you've taught many, my point is a judge knows by himself that this case is being manipulated. So the judge cannot go out of the book or out of the precedents in a broader sense. So if the judge decides on the facts and given the evidences, then definitely, as you said, even if you lose the court, don't lose your conscience. But in that matter, judge is bound and his hands are tied. So in that matter, his conscience will be sacrificed, definitely. So what should one do and navigate in such situations?
See, let me tell you. A lawyer is an officer of the court. Each lawyer must realize that. Such situations do come. Let me share an experience of my own in that context. How lawyers can manipulate and what it can lead to. One of the senior advocates, he argued a matter and supported his argument with a particular judgment. And he cited that judgment and quoted out that in support. The judge was absolutely in agreement with that senior counsel. Lunch break came in. I was to argue after that. He went for his lunch. I was in a predicament how to deal with this situation. I opened the book which was lying there, of which he had relied upon. And you know, to my utter shock and surprise, what I found was, in the left corner, he had written, this judgment has been overruled by such and such judgment, and he's given the citation of that judgment. So I quickly went to the library, picked up that particular book, and built up my case on that particular basis as such. When the time came after lunch to argue that matter, I said, my learned senior friend knows that this particular judgment has been overruled. And you know, he had no ways to show to the court as such. That's the kind of a situation that if the lawyer manipulates something, it's going to require him or her for that matter. Therefore, be true. Kanayala Mishra was the Advocate General of Allahabad High Court. You know, in one particular case, he was representing the state. The opposite client was in jail. Madhuravaiya, a socialist leader at that time, he was a friend of Mishra for that matter. And he asked him, bring the case law which supports me and give it to me in the jail, I would prepare that matter. He took the books supporting him to the jail for that matter. It came to the notice of the government that the Advocate General has helped the opposite client for that matter. Is it against ethics? He was questioned of that. And you know what was the answer? I'm an officer of the court. It is my duty itself to bring to the notice of the court the opposite case as well. And if I have told him, I have done no wrong at all. That's the kind of lawyers that we need for that matter. You know, fairness, openness. Learn the skills of advocacy. Be truthful. Be straight. Be not crafty. That's the recipe of a good lawyer for that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question we have is from Professor Navneet.
Hello, sir. And it is really wonderful to hear you in the talk show. Students are so full of emotions. They want to, interact with you rather than asking a formal question-answer session. But, sir, since you are a two-in-one personality, you have been a teacher and then a lawyer, and then in between many administrative positions. Then now as a Rotarian also. Sir. As a teacher, you have prepared lectures, and as a lawyer, you have prepared for your cases. As a teacher, you have faced the class, maybe 70 students or maybe 100 students in one class, and as a lawyer, you have faced a judge, your clients, and your colleagues. Have you ever felt that, thank God I have moved as a lawyer in this profession, or preparing a case was much easier than preparing a lecture or vice versa? Have you ever felt that which one was easier? Though I know that both need hard work, commitment, satisfaction is needed, but have you ever felt this way, that this one was easier or this one is easier or vice versa?
You know, when I came to the profession, soon I realized I did not teach what I ought to have taught. 22 years at the university, which makes a good lawyer. And I thought that over a period of time, if I ever get a chance to write a book, I would write a book what I did not teach at the law school. That was my feeling at that particular point of time. Now, coming to your question, particularly as such, as a teacher, I did work hard. But as a lawyer, I worked harder. I used to be at 4 o'clock on my table every day without fail. And I didn't know when I would hit the pillow at night, maybe 11, maybe past or before, for that matter as such. But I enjoyed that. My recipe for all of you is, whatever you do, be a teacher, be a lawyer, be a judicial educator, enjoy what you do. If you enjoy that, the example is before you. I don't need to say anything beyond that.
Thank you, sir. Next question, please. Is there a hand being raised at the end?
The mic is here. Just there's another question.
your response to the role of humor in the legal profession. My question is there any notable difference between what was considered funny and appropriate then in the legal profession and something that is appropriate and funny in the present scenario?
See, I mean, exactly what exactly is the scope of this question? I have not been able to make out what
Oh,
is.
so
Could
has the humor evolved over time, and how we perceive humor, has it evolved over time?
humor,
Yes.
please. Humor has always played a role in courts, in classrooms. Let me tell you, way back in 1948, 49, 50, Nani Palkiwala and Y.B. Chandrachud, the senior Chandrachud, they were young lawyers. Justice M.C. Chakla selected them to be the visiting faculty in the Bombay University for the law faculty. They used to go together for lectures to the students. Nani Palkiwala's lectures were enjoyed more because there was humor in those lectures. Absolutely. You know, let me share with you, in every walk of life, humor plays a significant role. When I came into teaching, I remember, I was asked to teach Sale of Goods Act. I was giving a brief background why this enactment, and a young student stands up and says, "Sir, can a man also be sold?" Now, my immediate response was, "Is that a personal problem?" And another episode that happened with me, I used to come to the class, sit down on the chair, take the roll call, and then walk up and down to lecture. One day I noticed there was a small slip on the chair. There was one word written on that, F-O-O-L, fool. I would have normally sat down. There was a gum on the one particular side. It would have got pasted on my back. I picked up that and I did this. And my response was, "Whose visiting card is this?" So, my dear young student, humor at home in domestic issues, in classroom and courtroom, has always played a role of its own kind. Humor can also be constructive, meaningful, wholesome. And that's what we need to be. You know, a lawyer must be able to think on his feet or her feet for that matter and respond to a situation. I remember in court, you know, we have talkative judges, we have silent judges. I was arguing a matter. The judge was a talkative judge. He would talk and would not let me talk. Arguing that. One full hour, and the judge says, "Dr. Gupta, we have suffered you for more than 1 hour." And my response, cool response was, "My lord, my quota was only 10 minutes. And the judge says, "Now I have done, you argue the matter." And I won that particular case as such. So you must be able to think on your feet. That is what is required.
Can we have the next question, please? Yes, please.
Let's find out.
Good afternoon, sir. The impact you have had on the legal fraternity, sir, it's exceptional, for a lack of a better word, sir. My question to you, sir, is that you have taught judicial officers and then you have taught students, and both of them alike, sir. Was there any noticeable difference which you could point out to that a judicial officer who has already cleared an exam and a student you have taught who would further go on to be elevated as a judge? Was there any significant difference, sir?
Good that you have asked me this. See, the judicial academies is the 21st century concept of training the judges for that matter. And the legacy of the law schools, they are taught laws, different laws in the law schools. When they come to the academy, again the laws are being taught to them. What I have done in this particular context, the classrooms of the judicial academies have to be converted into courtrooms. From moots to mock trials. Decided cases, you have to argue those particular cases as such. And many more practical aspects. Let me share with you in the Chandigarh Judicial Academy. UNODC, Office of Drug Control, United Nations. We had a mock trial in collaboration with them on human trafficking for that matter. Foreign experts had come. Actually, everything as a trial is done in the court, it was done. The judicial officers who had come, they participated in that. Would you believe, ultimately when the judicial trainee officers wrote a judgment in that mock trial, it was said to be by the foreign experts that the best of minds can't write a judgment of this particular kind. I felt so good that my judicial officers were of that particular caliber as such. And that mock trial became a model trial for be taken in other jurisdictions around the globe. And therefore, absolutely training the judicial minds, judges as such, judicial temperament, judicial attitude, how to manage judicial stress, how to manage the court, and many more things. Building up judicial fabric, strengthening the judicial fabric for that matter. There are a number of things. The book contains shaping the judges. That's the beauty of that. It's different. From law students, we have to produce the judicial officers. The Indian Military Academy produces officers, cadet officers. Judicial academies produce judicial officers. I compare them together. They both make many sacrifices, so the judicial officers also fall in that particular category as such.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure many students have several more questions, but sadly we're running out of time. Sir, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that our heart swells with pride as well as gratitude that you've taken out the time to come here and be with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Supreet,
sir.
let me tell you, I have enjoyed the last 70 minutes or whatever the time is. You have done your homework and my blessings to you.
Thank you, sir.
Each one of you have contributed to this session of mine. I acknowledge, I express my gratitude to each one, the faculty and the students for that. And let me cap it up by saying, I'm blessed in having Shruti as my daughter.
We are blessed to have her as our VOD director. Just 2 more minutes to acknowledge those 2 people without whom this would not have been possible. Our VOD director, Professor Dr. Shruti Bedi ma'am, who is the pillar of strength for us. Thank you so much, ma'am, for making this all possible. If Shruti ma'am is our pillar, Ratan sir is our foundation. We miss him here today. He could not be here because of another engagement. But he is one person who does not have the word no or impossible in his dictionary. As soon as we took this proposal to him and ma'am, they were on board from the get-go, and they have made this process so easy for us. Thank you so much, everyone. The entire Arguendo team. Thank you so much, Yajur. Please come up here. My co-researchers are Pravishi, Komal, Samay, Sadia, and Pranay. All the MCS team for giving us the support that we need. Thank you so much.
I also join her in thanking you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Listening to you over the last 75 minutes was not just listening to one personality, but talking to over 3 generations.
Yes.
So I am sure that the students over here have experienced and have gained a lot from your experiences, both as an academician as well as a legal fraternity. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Now I request Dr. Supreet to please come and felicitate Professor Dr. Balram.
I request Professor Navneet ma'am and Professor Bharat sir to kindly come and felicitate sir.
Sir, please.
So that. Come on, MCS. This is your opportunity. So this is a personal gift for you. And so this is a personal gift for you. My books. My books. My books. Please. Thank you so much. So come. Tarun. Tarun, come on. Tarun, we could not have done this without you, so come on. Come. Yajur is here. Yajur, are you writing? Come now. Thank you so much.
Rita, let's have another picture.
Of course.
Supreet, let's have another picture. The faculty members. Preeti ma'am, touch please.
All the faculty members, please, event organizers.